Good day, everyone. So today I will be discussing you the strategies we can use in teaching prose. But first, what is prose? Prose is meant for learning a language. Teaching prose means teaching reading with comprehension. The learners are taught the skill of reading. The next step is to teach them with reading comprehension. Reading with comprehension helps the learners to acquire new vocabulary and content words. Reading a text for accuracy is a prerequisite when a piece of prose is taught. It is done with the close guidance of the teacher. It forces the learners to pay more attention to the text. It involves a profound and detailed understanding of the text. It is primarily concerned with the developing of reading strategies involving in teaching prose. Prose is generally written to convey thoughts and feelings. It can be difficult to make sense of a particular style of writing because authors often leave much up to the imaginations of the readers. Teaching prose focuses on increasing students' comprehension of the material and establishing a personal connection to it. The key is to use a variety of strategies to keep students interested and involved. Here are the 10 strategies we can use in teaching prose. First, break it up or reading. Second, class discussion or listening and speaking. 3. Writing. 4. Act it out or change the medium. 5. Giving assignment. 6. Choosing prose. 7. The 5S prose strategy. 8. Discuss. 9. Integrate technology. And last, create fun poems from prose. First, break it up or reading. One of the best ways to understand the prose is to divide the piece into smaller sections and carefully reread each section until you understand. As a teacher, having the student focus on read a particular excerpt can help them gain further meaning than just reading the piece of a whole. Ask your student to answer questions about the small section to help them focus. The more they read the excerpt, the better they will be picking up the keywords that give emotion to the piece. Introductory active reading strategies at the beginning of the course. Here are 3 steps. First, teach them to observe what is on the page, the facts and answer to who, what, where, and how. Second, encourage them to notice patterns, connection, repetition, or contradiction. Tell them to question everything and explain that a situation or item wouldn't be in the text if there wasn't a reason for it. Lastly, text students teach students rather to discover the theme or the text, what the author intended the reader to understand at the beginning of the course. Make sure students understand the literature terminology. They will need to know what the fiction elements are, the point of view, character, setting, plot, structure, and the theme, and why writers use them. Discuss the concept with the students during class by using examples from the assigned readings. Give clear ideas about new words and their meanings. The meaning may be explained through real situation. Second, class discussion, listening, and speaking. Once the students have had a chance to read on their own, facilitating a class discussion is one of the best ways to further understanding. As a student, hear what their classmates felt and thought when they read the piece of prose. They will gain another meaning for the text because prose is left to the reader to interpret. Having variety of opinion can be helpful in deciphering what the meaning is. Lecturing student helps students understand the material, but creating a discussion involves students more effectively. 3. Writing. One of the best ways for students rather to increase comprehension is to write about the story they've read. Insist upon the students to keep their class workbooks open during the lesson and have them brainstorm. List or free write a paragraph immediately after completing the reading, depending on the level of the class. Create a form with questions to answer as a homework. Other writing assignments also enhance creative and critical thinking. Ask students to write a continuation of a story and imagine what would happen next. Alternately, have them rewrite the ending of a short story, choosing a point in the action and changing the direction of the plot. You can also require that they change the gender, age, race, or sexual orientation of a character from a story and rewrite the story or a selected scene. Assign the student a character and have them write a letter to him or her, or have the student write a letter to that author and tell him or her what they think of the piece of prose. Number 4, act it out or change the medium. Assign your student to play roles for a piece of prose fiction. Give them some time to practice their lines so they understand the emotion and thoughts of their characters. This is an effective strategy because it forces students to put themselves in the shoes of the character, thus enhancing their understanding of what is conveyed in the text. Many work or prose has been turned into theatrical performances, plays, or movies. Show your student the movie in class. Changing up the medium will help the visual learners in the class to grasp the concept revealed in the text. Also, movies tend to simplify some of the themes and emotion, which are easier to grasp. Number five, giving assignment. Assignment to the students are should given by the teacher for the following purposes: A. To remember the meaning and spelling of new words. B. To use the words in sentence. C. To write the gist of the passage. D. To answer the question. D. E. To do the exercise based on the taught units. 6. Choosing prose before you choose to teach anything. Read it first. After you read the selection, take the time to write down a response to it that qualifies how you felt about the piece. If a piece of a prose is unable to stimulate or interest you, it is unlikely to do so for your students. Afterward, look at the piece from the point of view of the students based on their life experiences, interests, and ages. This helps you pick appropriate and engaging prose. 7. The 5S prose strategy. After giving students a prose passage, offer them a graphic organizing with the headings, speaker, situation, sentences, shapes, and syntax. Guide students through the process of recording their observation and interpretation for each heading of the graphic organizer, using evidence from the prose for support. For example, in the syntax section, student would record example from the reading in which the word order seemed interest or significant. After the example, urge students to comment on how the syntax affected the overall meaning of the passage. Number 8. Lecturing student helps students understand the material, but creating discussion involves students more effectively. Hearing another point of view challenge them to comprehend the material deeper. During class, ask questions. According to Saskatchewan Education, effective teaching involves asking appropriate questions at appropriate times and helping students ask their question on own question. Small group discussion gives shy students an opportunity to relate one-on-one. Group 4 or 5 students together and give them a question to discuss. Let someone draw it randomly or use a question and answer form. Bring the smaller discussion back to the class by having one student report what was discussed. Number 9, integrate technology. Integrate technology into your teaching strategies after reading and discussing a work. Watch the movie version in class. If a movie hasn't been made of that book, watch a similar one to compare or contrast. View author broadcasts reading their own work or commenting on it. Assign student to make a movie about story or novel. Patty Bloom at Scholastic note that students develop comprehension and increase learning while researching characters, storyboarding plots, and learning the art of filmmaking by translating a novel into a Hollywood-style digital movie. And lastly, create found poems from prose. A found poem is one that is created using only words, phrases, or quotations that have been selected and rearranged from another text. To create found poems, students must choose language that is particularly meaningful or interesting to them and organize the language around a theme or message. Assessment in prose. As you probably know already, there are multiple types of assessment. You can use it to identify where your student knowledge and skill currently stand and in which aspect they can improve even more. But with so many options out there, determining which one will work best for you and your student can be quite tricky. So here are some of the assessments you can use for teaching prose. So I prepared 10 assessment, first discussion, 10, 2 silent reading, 3 text search, 4 journaling, 5 comparing and contrasting, 6 benchmark, 7 diagnostic, 8 listening, 9 writing, 10 oral assessment. First, discussion is the action or process of taking active thought in order to raise a decision, exchange ideas or thoughts. Students can watch film and let them discuss to class what they've learned. Here are the steps. Talk to your students. Allow them to interact with you during the discussion. Example, asking them a question about the film you prepared through that they can easily retain the information upon watching a short movie or film. Second, oral recitation. Allow students to learn, review the material in a small group environment which will promote their skill in communication at the same time. Example, asking them about the lesson you've discussed. Second one, silent reading, is a reading without voicing the word out loud. A reading that is in interactive process that goes on between the reader and the text. We have two characteristics of silent reading. Eye movement. Student comprehension increases when they read quietly because it allows them to focus on the content rather than the pronunciation of individual words. We may shape mental pictures of the subject being discussed while we read silently. We also don't have to read a single word at a time. Second one is the eye movement. Moving the eyes rapidly from left to right without looking back at the previous word or complete silence. In silent reading, teachers should set time limit for reading. This helps in acquiring speed and concentration. So here are the steps. Select an interesting topic that is suitable to your student interest. Let them read silently on their own. Give at least 5 to 10 minutes of time to read. Encourage students to picture read the story and correct words from the text to teacher. Number three, text search. Focus on the student text search ability. The student will be able to comprehend the text they're reading as a result of this. In order to answer the question, the student should use the text search. This is one way to determine the student comprehension. The teacher will be able to determine whether the student's reading comprehension or way of teaching prose is effective enough to make the student understand what prose is all about in this matter. Number four, journaling. It can be used for a variety of purposes, including reflection, connection, and critical thinking. It's a different way to of breeding student that allows them to determine how far they progress from where they began. It could also be used to inspire learners to think critically, develop their poetic and writing skill. Journaling will assist you in significant learning experience in your life. Here are the steps. Introduce your topic or subject as well as the argument you want to make about your learning and experience. Develop your argument in the body paragraph and then wrap up your paper by discussing the significance you derive from the reflection. Example, let let your student have their own reflection notebook. 5. Comparing and contrasting. Prose and poetry are two terms that is always coined together. It is the practical and easy way of introducing higher order thinking skills. It also improves comprehension of the student as it highlights the important details and making meaning among the abstract ideas. In order to successfully compare and contrast the two concepts, comparing and contrasting is accompanied by a table that is needed to be filled up in order guide the students in what should they compare and contrast. Number 6, benchmark assessment. A test designed to measure student achievement and mastery of predetermined curriculum standards. In main purpose are to provide information that can be used to guide the teaching and learning process, as well as to determine placement levels before commencing intervention. Example, instructor may use spelling tests to test out the vocabulary they've learned from the story. 7. Diagnostic assessment is an evaluation of child's knowledge and skill level of certain topic. Example, course with a group work. Instructor will serve a student prior experience or knowledge with group work or conducts early term assessment. Number 8. Listening assessment. We can assess them by asking if they can recall the story they've heard and retell it out loud to the class. Tell your student to retell to the class a story that they've read without reading it again. Number 9, writing. A productive skill involving manipulation, structuring, and communicating. Through this process, will be easily understood if the student will be practiced to write their own prose. Example, challenge students to create their own literary piece. Number 10, oral assessment. For this method, the instructor invites their team for a face-to-face session or visual meeting. Question them directly and assess them based on their verbal answer. Most of the time, this assessment is done casually with no specific structured list of questions. The answer can be elaborative or straight to the point, all up to the teacher's requirements. Example, calling up a student in front and have one question about discussion and see who can answer the question fastest, and that will be all. Thank you.